All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Droppin' Dimes with Matthew Donio, me, and Adam Dini. And today we have a special guest today on the show for episode 2, Vinny Tedesco. How are you doing today, Vinny?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
All right, so we're going to start off the show today with going over some of the NFL scores from this week. Let's take a look. We had the Thursday night game, Rams 12, 49ers 6. I mean, what'd you guys think about that one?
Terrible game. That's all I'll say.
No comment.
Yeah, I mean, the play on the field was terrible. It was just a terrible game to watch. I went to bed early. And now let's go over our Sunday slate. I mean, we had Commanders at Saints in a close game. Commanders took them 20-19. What do you guys think about that?
I feel like the way the Saints lost was absolutely heartbreaking.
A lot of people didn't see, but there was actually a penalty on the play before the touchdown the Saints got to maybe tie up the game with an extra point, go for 2, win the game. They didn't stop the clock, so allowed the Commanders or the Saints to run one more play. So they scored the touchdown. Really, the refs did their job. That touchdown should have never happened, so really it wasn't as close as they said it would. But,
That's true. And if you're the Saints, just send it to overtime. Kick the point. Like, it's really not that hard, is it? I mean,
You saw the Buccaneers do that earlier in the season.
yeah, it was a little embarrassing.
I don't agree.
Yeah. Well, and then we had the Chiefs, 21-7 to the Browns. I mean, not a lot to say about that game. I mean, it was just the Chiefs have been.
Aside from Patrick Mahomes leaving the game with an ankle injury, that was really the big thing there. It doesn't really matter because he's not going to really be missing games. They just give that dude painkillers and he's all good to go.
I think he will miss this next game and maybe the game after. They don't matter. I mean, they're fighting for the bye, but they have it in their pocket. And Carson Wentz is good enough. I highly doubt he'll play the next one. Maybe 2 games he'll be out.
Yeah. All right, and then we also had the Bengals and the Titans. I mean, a bit more of a high-scoring game. Bengals beat the Titans 37-27. What do you think?
To me, that was surprising considering both of these teams not having that great of records were able to score that many points. Again, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase have both been going off this year. Seeing them continue to ball out was a great thing.
They showed Joe Burrow on the sideline, and they read his lips. John Boy, the guys that would do it, and he said, "This is embarrassing." They were destroying him, and Joe Burrow said, "This is embarrassing," because the Titans are one of the worst teams in football, and Joe Burrow and I don't know what's going on over there. But it's just not good. I don't care how many points they drop. I don't care how many yards Joe Burrow has. They're below 500. And Justin Herbert, I hate the argument. Justin Herbert is 5 to 10 times better the quarterback than Joe Burrow has or ever will be.
It's quite the take there.
That is quite the take.
It's just the truth.
I mean, it's the Harbaugh effect.
No, he was better before and he's better now.
Yeah.
One more thing. Sorry.
One more thing.
When the Chargers were losing week after week because they had no coaching and an awful defense, they said, "Oh, Herbert's not good enough to win." But now Joe Burrow has a bad defense. They're below 500. You know what they say?
He's good.
Oh, my God. Just help Joe Burrow, please. He's such a good quarterback in such a bad spot. But they don't give the same treatment to Herbert. Now that Herbert has a good coach and a good defense and he's winning, it's the Harbaugh effect.
It's all of a sudden
Yeah,
they give him the same.
I completely agree, and I just dislike Joe Burrow.
I do
as a
feel.
Steelers fan.
I will say I feel like Justin Herbert did a great job putting up with Brandon Staley all those years.
Yeah.
Anthony Lynn.
Yeah. So now we had the Texans and the Dolphins, 20-12. Texans won that one.
I think that was a predictable game.
Very predictable.
Texans again in the playoff picture. Dolphins. I feel like if they had Tua for those few weeks, they would be in the playoff picture, but they're not in the playoff picture. So that's what I feel like about that. I feel like that game was predictable.
All right, and then we also had Ravens 35, Giants 14. I mean,
again,
another predictable
game.
Again,
another predictable
Lamar
game.
Jackson and the Ravens, I mean, my Steelers own them, but,
Yeah, I mean,
they're good.
In my opinion, as a Giants fan, I said it a couple weeks ago. I said, I'm officially done with this team the second I see Tim Boyle take a snap on offense, and that's exactly what he did. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Tim Boyle for a second?
Yeah.
No one talks about Tim Boyle. This guy has been in the league for 10 years. You look at his college stats. Like I was interested to look into Tim Boyle. Like I don't know why, but I looked into him.
Yeah,
He was. Am I allowed to curse on?
No.
no.
All right. He was dog crap in college. He was so bad for UConn. And then he got drafted. Like I see, like what's his name went in like the 7th round last year. Max Duggan. He just went into the national championship. Went in the 7th round. Tim Boyle went 3-13 in his college career with UConn, throwing more picks than touchdowns.
Yeah, and isn't UConn independent? They're not even.
They're-
I don't know
Yes,
what they were back then,
they're-
but I'm sure they weren't good.
Right now, they're an independent conference team.
Yeah. And I don't understand how that guy can get in the league and be in it for so long. Like he's been in the league for so long. it's really fascinating.
To me,
They just keep giving him chances.
I think it's crazy that he keeps getting chances. Like every single year, you see this guy swap teams. Like it's just
Like
insane.
Crappy Joe Flacco.
Yeah. Well, let's skip over, in the interest of time, some of these other pointless games. Like, I mean, who cares about the Jets and the Jaguars? They're both not making the playoffs. They both stink.
I think the Jets fans care about that.
Well, yeah, the Jets fans care, but I mean,
Well, they got to sit through
Your
watching
quarterback
40-year-old Aaron
stinks.
Rodgers.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, me personally, I didn't really care about the Cowboys-Panthers game.
Well, yeah, Cowboys-Panthers, though, 30-14. I thought the Panthers would give them a run for their money. The Panthers were favored for the first time, I think, since it was like, how long was the streak?
33 games.
33 games, yeah.
Bryce Young didn't really have a good game.
He didn't have a good game.
It just wasn't. He didn't perform, and I feel like that's why they lost.
Alabama quarterbacks. Not good.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we had the Buccaneers crush the Chargers 40-17.
I'll say one thing about the Buccaneers. I went into this season. I expected them to be a little bit less than what they were last year, which they are. But to be fair, my utmost respect goes to Baker Mayfield. The stuff that he's been able to do with that offense
After everything he's been through.
After everything he's been through, getting drafted to Cleveland, fumbling around with Carolina, LA, like getting put into poor situations, seeing him being able to ball out with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and the offense they have there is really great. And I love seeing Baker put on a show week after week.
Yeah. No, I actually like it too, So, all right, we've also got the Broncos. They scored 31, beat the Colts 31-13. I mean, the Broncos are kind of a force. They kind of really – I feel like this was a nail in the coffin for the Colts' playoff hopes.
Yeah,
they're done now. I mean –
I like Bo Nix. I like him more than Jay Daniels. I do think Jay Daniels is overrated. I'm not going to get into that because I can go on for 20
we
minutes.
could go on and on.
Jaden Daniels, he's just not. Everyone thinks he's so good because he keeps winning.
So you feel like the Commanders are frauds?
100%. I think first round exit, they're going to get destroyed, pummeled, absolutely pummeled. And you look at you don't have the schedule up, but if you did, the Commanders have beat no one good. They beat the Bengals in week 2. Worst defensive football.
I mean, they lost to my Steelers, and I mean, to be fair, my Steelers. We played a lot of bad teams.
Listen, that take that you just had saying the Commanders will be a first round exit. I'll say one thing. Let's see how well that ages in a few weeks.
Yeah, it will age perfectly.
I think it will age perfectly, Adam.
Unless
Now
they get like the Rams.
Unless they just
Actually, the Rams.
get all the luck on their side. But
now we had the Cardinals versus the Patriots. Cardinals won 30-17. What do you think about that? Not just
predictable outcome.
Another predictable one.
Patriots again, one of the many teams that are eliminated from the playoffs. Cardinals, they've had an interesting season, mainly because of the fact is that division was hyped up a lot. But considering the fact that the 49ers are in last place, you got the Seahawks, then the Rams and the Cardinals are a little neck and neck. But that's all I'll say for that game.
Have you seen the thing going on with Trey McBride this year?
Yeah,
I
I think I know what you're talking about. He has 0 receiving touchdowns, and there was a thing going around that guys like Jared Goff, Josh Allen, a few offensive linemen have a receiving touchdown rather than him, right?
Yeah. So all year they've been trying to get him in the goal, into the end zone, and they for some reason I think he's the number 1 fantasy tight end right now with no touchdowns. He has 1 touchdown.
Wow.
It was rushing. I don't remember that play, but I do remember. This game, they were at the 1-inch line. They could have ran the ball with James Conner easily, dove into the end zone. Instead, they flip it. The Mahomes, the Kelsey.
Yeah, that flip.
Little flip.
Yeah.
It didn't work. it was shot. It's honestly like very surprising that what's going on there.
Yeah.
And to me that's like a little bit disappointing because I actually like Trey McBride. I think he's one of the better young tight ends in the league, and I feel like he still hasn't reached his full potential yet. Especially with Kyler Murray, I feel like he's like actually got a little bit of long ways to go, especially after like being that second tight end, and now he's the starting tight end now that Zach Ertz isn't there anymore. And considering that, like with what you said, that he's the number one fantasy tight end, he still hasn't scored any touchdowns. That's a pretty crazy. It's a pretty crazy stat line, but it absolutely sucks for him that he hasn't gotten into the end zone yet, because I'm a Trey McBride fan. I really like him
Mhm.
as a
It's
player.
bad coaching. Bad coaching.
Yeah. So let's move on. I mean, one of the best games of the week, Bills Lions. Bills
That-
beat the Lions 48-42.
That
I
game,
thought it was a great
that
game,
game was
though.
awesome. That was
Yeah.
that was a great game, neck and neck the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
It looked neck and neck if you looked at the score, but if you watch the game, the Bills were up 14 points. I mean, most of the game they were up 14, maybe more. It wasn't really that close. That final score, yes, it was close, but it was really the Bills dominated that game.
True, but both
was-
teams are so great.
It was honestly nice to see that the Bills were able to work their way through, like you said, dominate, because most of the penalties that happened throughout that whole game went against the Bills. So they were able to bounce back from that and being able to beat the Lions, who now have a tied record for the Eagles in that NFC playoff picture.
Yeah. All right. So now the last game of the Sunday afternoon slate, we had
Speaking of the Eagles, right?
Yeah, Eagles Steelers. Womp womp for me. 27-13.
Steelers fan over here.
Yeah. It was a shame. It was a rough game to watch. Terrible, terrible offense by the Steelers. I mean, Russell Wilson stunk.
To me, watching that Eagles game made me realize that even though he's the second string on that team, Kenneth Gainwell has had a really good season for Philly. I mean, obviously he's in the shadow of Saquon Barkley, who's been putting on an absolute clinic this year. But considering what Kenneth Gainwell has been able to do in the receiving game and even a little bit of the running game, he was able to get the Eagles into nice field position a couple times during that game. Not only him, but I feel like Grant Calcaterra, with Dallas Goedert being out, I think he's done a very good job in that spot also.
All right, so now let's talk about some prime time. We had Sunday Night Football, Packers 30, Seahawks 13. Vinny, what do you think about this one?
As a Seahawks guy, it was not pretty, right?
pretty.
Even when Gino was in the game, it was not. It was kind of embarrassing. But it was still, we were in the game. You know, we were only down 14, maybe 17. I mean, it's definitely hard, but it was comebackable. And you know, Gino goes down, bring in nobody. Sam Howell, awful,
Yeah.
absolutely awful.
All right, and then we had last night, our Monday night games. We had Vikings 30, Bears 12. They crushed the Bears. The Bears are terrible.
I love the Vikings this year. I feel like with what Kevin O'Connell has been able to do, reworking Sam Darnold's career out, Sam Darnold has been balling this year.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like, me personally, if I was the Vikings GM, I would give Sam Darnold an extension for maybe 2 years. Let J.J. McCarthy sit out. Because yet again, J.J. McCarthy, even though he looked good in preseason, he's still an unproven quarterback.
Yeah,
right?
He hasn't proven himself.
So I feel like if I was the Vikings GM, I'd extend Darnold for like 2 years, maybe 3. But by doing that, you continue working, having that trajectory with Darnold because he's a good quarterback now. And by letting J.J. McCarthy sit, that gets him developing. And when he finally ends up coming in to start, he could actually look pretty good. Because we've seen that effect when rookie quarterbacks get thrown in there right away and they don't look good. And then you see instances where they sit for a few years and then they come in and they look like a good starting quarterback.
I'm not trying to attack you here, but
No offense taken.
right, there's really a couple guys that sat and they came in. You got Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
He sat behind Alex Smith for 1 year.
Jordan Love, too.
Jordan Love, yeah. Alex Smith was a solid quarterback his entire career. Then we got Love sat behind Aaron Rodgers, Hall of Fame quarterback, multiple-time MVP.
First ballot Hall of Famer. Super Bowl champion also.
Yeah, come on. And then there's Sam Darnold. You're going to sit J.J. McCarthy behind Sam Darnold for 2 years? That's 2 more years?
I mean, if you,
Sam Darnold.
even if you think about it, obviously Sam Darnold hasn't been up to the level
It's a
of
system.
he
It's a
hasn't
system.
he hasn't been up to the level of a Mahomes or a Rodgers. But like you said, it's the system that they have. Kevin O'Connell is a quarterback whisperer. He's able to do things with quarterbacks and rework their careers like anybody else that I haven't been able to see in the league. Like the stuff that dude is able to do, like he did it with Kirk Cousins. He's done it with Sam Darnold, and I feel like if he gets another quarterback in that situation, I feel like he could end up doing that again.
Yeah. So let's talk about the last game. Falcons 15, Raiders 9. There's not much to talk about there.
Not really much either.
So why don't we just get to why Vinny's here today? The Heisman. We want to talk a little bit about the Heisman Trophy and the controversy, with Travis Hunter and Ashton Genty.
Ashton Genty. Yep.
Yeah, and I'm gonna just give you the mic, Vinny,
Thank
because I know you got a lot to say about this one.
I first wanted to ask a question to you.
Yeah.
Based off of these two players' performances, who did you want to win the Heisman?
Well, Ashton Genty is the Heisman. In my eyes, Ashton Genty is the Heisman, and I will always look back and say Ashton Genty won the Heisman. And I just want to go right for 1 second back to that Vikings thing.
Mhm.
Sam Darnold will never win more than one playoff game in his career. I just want to get that out there. I hate Sam Darnold. I hate the Vikings. The system, they won't win anything.
So you feel
But
like
back to Travis Hunter.
so Ashton Genty was, in your mind, the lock for Heisman, and then when you saw Travis Hunter beat him out, you thought it was like pretty controversial.
No, he is. I think he is. I think Travis Hunter is a great ball player. I'm not going to go out and attack him. Some people say he's mid. No, he's a great receiver and a great cornerback. But you got to see what Genty's doing. He is probably the second, maybe third best running back of all time in college football. And
He almost broke the college rushing record, I believe, right?
yeah, he was. No one's going to touch Barry Sanders. He's untouchable. I mean, he played less games than anyone and still had more yards. He
He had tougher competition, I believe, too.
He was averaging 230 a game. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
But Genty, he went out there, and it sucks because Genty really deserved it too. When Genty has a lot less likely to go out and have a good NFL career. He has more carries than almost anyone ever in college. Like, that's hard to go in with that many carries into the NFL. He's been hurt. He's been touched. He's been tackled a lot.
In my opinion, I feel like the amount of carries he got in college is the exact thing you want to see. Because if I'm a team and I'm looking at Ashton Genty, the amount of carries he got is exactly what I want in a potential every down running back.
You know who else had 2,000 yards? J.K. Dobbins. He had a lot of carries too, and he hasn't been able to stay healthy for more than
That's a concern too.
10 games. 10 games. So I don't think Genty is going to be like the next Hall of Fame running back, but I do think
He'll be good.
Go down as one of the greatest college running backs of all time,
And he
deserves
deserved
the
that.
award.
He deserved that Heisman. It's very sad. I think it was just.
I mean,
if he played for Colorado, he would have won the Heisman.
No offense to Travis Hunter, but I feel like when you look at the stat lines, Ashton Genty not only had a better season, but he was able to do things that no running back has been able to do since Barry Sanders or like since the early 2000s, right? I mean, obviously it's controversial because you look at Travis Hunter and it's like, okay, he's only a junior in college. He plays two positions. He's out here, getting interceptions, covering guys like lockdown defense, and then all of a sudden you see him catching receiving touchdowns. That's an interesting argument to make, considering he's like a dual threat player. But you can't really look at it as the fact of he plays two positions because at that
How well does he play them?
Exactly, because it's
Very well.
it's literally like
College, very well.
In college,
Very
very
well.
well, but that's not going to translate to the NFL.
you got to think about it too. Like,
Well,
is
I
he going to
think-
be able to play them in the NFL?
He's
It's
not.
at that point, it's basically sort of think of it as college football's version of like buy one get one free. You draft him, you're getting two positions in one.
Mhm.
No, I don't think any NFL team. I mean, they might occasionally throw him on defense, but I do think he's going to be a full-time receiver. And
Not a corner.
no, I don't think so. Corner, he's not as good as that corner, and they know that, and they'd rather use him fully healthy on offense. You can put him out defense occasionally, I guess, but you don't want that. And it's sad because I do think if Travis Hunter and Ashton Genty switch teams, that Ashton Genty would have won the Heisman. And I think that it's part of it is nepotism with Dion and Shador. And I know this is off topic, but Shador Sanders will go down Well, Shador Sanders will go down as the biggest bust since Johnny Manziel. He'll be the first overall pick to the Giants. Maybe he'll say no. Because, Shador, he's too cool. He's going to say, no, I'm going to the Raiders. Screw the Giants. I don't care who has the first pick. I'm playing in Las
Have
Vegas.
you seen how he posts "Thank you God"
Yes.
after every time the Raiders lose?
Yeah, and it's
disgusting.
embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
Not only that, but Dion went out and said that he wants Shador to play in a warm weather state. And me personally, I feel like considering how bad the Raiders season has been, I think if Dion, works his whatever his magic is, like he'll make Shador go to the Raiders, and then he'll somehow get the head coaching job there, probably knowing him, and then he'll just like end up coaching Shador in the NFL.
I doubt the Raiders move on from Pierce. I feel like
He is a good head coach.
there's
He's
definitely a chance where Dion goes with him. But
in,
I feel
in
like
some way
it would be better. I feel like it's more likely with the Giants. I do like Brian Dable. I don't think he should be fired. I feel like he's very unlucky.
I don't think he should be fired either.
I think a good
a
team
lot
would
of
snatch
people,
him up.
a lot of people feel like both him and Joe Shane should be fired. I don't think either of them should be because from what I've seen as a Giants fan, this is the best management we've had in the past 10 years ever since they've won the Super Bowl. And John Mara even said that he doesn't want to move on from Brian Dable and Joe Shane because he's tired of the constant 2-year, 3-year coaching changes. And it just didn't work. So I feel like if they keep what they have now and they, maybe draft a quarterback or, whatever, then it could end up going in the right direction. But obviously with time, we'll just have to wait and see.
I think that the Giants, if let's say they take Shador, they're either taking Shador or Cam Ward, right? So if they take one of those guys, they need to make a decision on their coach now because the worst thing you can do for a quarterback is have them have a coaching change after the first season, after your rookie year.
Work.
You can't do that.
You can't do that for a rookie, especially.
Like,
even if you do, who's to say they're even going to draft either of those guys? They might just go out there and just take Travis Hunter #1 overall. For all I know,
not gonna happen.
But like, even for one of those guys, you can't just go through the process of coaching changes and all this other like bull crap, and all of a sudden you just got a rookie sitting there just waiting to play. I mean, even in my opinion, I feel like considering one of those guys gets drafted, they're starting immediately. There's no way like Tommy DeVito is going to start over either of them.
Absolutely not.
As a Giants fan, do you think there's a possibility they take Travis Hunter?
I think if they don't want either of those quarterbacks, they would take Travis Hunter.
So then you think next year they're going to take Travis Hunter and go into a season with Tommy DeVito?
If that's a possibility, right? I don't. Again,
They
I don't.
need a
I
quarterback.
don't. Again, I
As
don't.
much as I love Tommy Cutlets, they need a
I
quarterback.
love him. I love him too. As
They
much
need a
as I
quarterback.
really don't think the Giants are going to draft Travis Hunter. Let's say they do for some weird reason, right? The only instance I could see that happening is if they sign a competent veteran in free agency. If they do that, then they would probably take Travis Hunter. But other than that, I don't really see any quarterback in free agency that I would think they would go out and get, right? I just don't really see any options there. So then the only thing left is, like Vinny said, draft either Shador or Cam Ward, #1 overall.
I think maybe there's a very slight chance they go out and trade for Kirk Cousins, and
I don't think so.
but I think that would be a very big mistake. I think
would
that's
be a
really the
mistake.
only.
Well,
veteran.
that would be the
So
biggest mistake ever.
Yeah, I do think Shador Sanders is a Giant or Cam Ward, but I think Michael Penix could be the next best quarterback. I feel like if he gets to playing, if they
If they move
maybe
on from
one
Kirk.
more year sitting,
Yeah.
I feel like he's on a Jordan Love path to
He's-
be like
I think
straight
you're
to the
right.
top.
I think you're
I
right.
feel like considering the stuff he did in college with Romo Dunze, like that's a perfect opportunity to do the same exact things with Drake London over in that offense. Again, you also have Bijan, you have Kyle Pitts. I think that's a great take in my opinion. I feel like that would be a nice thing for him.
Wait, give me that mic. One last thing before we sign off.
Before we go, yeah.
Stop with Kyle Pitts. Genuinely stop.
He's not good.
If he's drafted before 7 tight ends next year, I'm going to be mad in fantasy. Like, this guy, please keep telling me he has upside. Please tell me
He's
one
terrible.
more time. It's not a coaching thing. It's not a quarterback thing.
He's
He is
awful. He's
he's
not
not a good route
I say
runner.
let him cook.
He's not open ever. If he was open, he'd get the ball.
All right. So that was a good thing to end on. I think that's enough for today.
That will do it from episode 2. From everyone here, thanks for being
Yeah,
on, Vinny.
thank you,
You
Vinny.
were
Thank
you
you
were
for being
you were
here.
incredible.
Incredible first guest here.
He's
Hoping to
Matt
have you
Donio.
back on the show at some point, maybe later down in the year.
Baseball, maybe.
Baseball,
Ba-
maybe,
yeah,
maybe
maybe.
if we start a baseball podcast, that's his specialty.
From everyone here, he's Matt Donio. I'm Adam Dini. Signing off till episode 3.